4 days after the election, America's new political landscape is starting to take shape. But unlike his predecessor, President Biden is laying the groundwork for a peaceful transfer of power. Biden has invited President-elect Donald Trump to the White House for an Oval Office meeting on Wednesday, resuming a tradition Trump broke in 2020 when he refused to grant the same courtesy to Biden. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, we're still waiting to see if Republicans will have a governing trifecta in Washington. Not only do they have control of the White House with Trump's election, they also have retaken the majority in the U.S. Senate. So far, they have 53 seats. Last night, Republicans failed to flip a seat in Nevada when NBC projected Democratic incumbent Senator Jackie Rosen won re-election. But some key races have yet to be called. In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, incumbent Democratic Senator Bob Casey is currently trailing his Republican challenger by ½ point. And out west in Arizona, Democratic Congressman Ruben Gallego leads Republican Kari Lake by more than 1 percentage point. As for the House of Representatives, NBC has yet to call 19 races, and depending on the district, it could take days or even weeks to finish counting the votes. It's all that's standing in the way of us knowing whether Republicans maintain their majority or if Democrats retake control of the chamber and make leader Hakeem Jeffries the new Speaker of the House. The anti-Trump movement isn't wasting any time showing its displeasure with Tuesday's results. Today in Washington and New York City, protesters marched against Trump's policies with more demonstrations planned ahead of his inauguration on January 20th. Now that I've had a few nights' sleep and some time to reflect, I have some thoughts on why we are now bracing for a second Trump administration. I don't care what anyone says. Vice President Kamala Harris ran a superb campaign. She promised to make our lives better.
I will deliver tax cuts to working people and the middle class. I will make sure you have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead. Because I believe in honoring the dignity of work. I will enact the first ever federal ban on price gouging on groceries. Cap the price of insulin and limit out-of-pocket prescription costs for all Americans. As president, I will fight to help first-time home buyers with your down payment, take on the companies that are jacking up rents, and build millions of new homes. I'm going to cut the red tape and work with the private sector and local governments to speed up building and get it done. I'll fight for a child tax credit to save them some money, which will also lift American children out of poverty. I'll work to lower the cost of childcare, which is out of reach for too many working families today.
She stood up for America's leadership role in the world.
I will strengthen, not surrender, America's global leadership. And I will stand with our friends because I know that our alliances keep American people safe and make America stronger and more secure.
She warned us about the twice impeached, 4 times indicted and convicted on 34 felony counts former president found liable for sexual abuse who roared against what he called the enemy from within.
Donald Trump has told us his priorities for a second term. He has an enemies list of people he intends to prosecute. Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him. People he calls, quote, the enemy from within.
And she spoke to our better angels.
America, I know the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. I know it. The United States of America is the greatest idea humanity ever devised. A nation big enough to encompass all our dreams, strong enough to withstand any fracture or fissure between us, and fearless enough to imagine a future of possibilities.
Over the course of 107 days, Kamala Harris demonstrated resolve, embodied purpose, projected toughness, and she wrapped it all up in a joyful passion for public service that resonated with millions who wanted to see themselves, hear themselves in someone seeking the presidency. And yet, Donald Trump is president-elect because the entire nation swung to the right. Look at this map from the New York Times. Red counties in red states got redder. Blue counties in blue states moved more to the right. According to the New York Times, more than 90% of counties with nearly complete results shifted in Trump's favor. Donald Trump is president-elect because, as of right now, he got 50.5% of the vote, the first Republican president to win the popular vote since George W. Bush in 2004. Vice President Harris needed a broad coalition to win the White House. After all, no Democrat running for president has won a majority of the white vote since 1964. Harris was never going to get there with the overwhelming support of 91% of black women and 77% of black men. They were only 7% and 5% of the electorate, respectively. She needed to win over white women, a not unreasonable expectation that she could, given the electoral backlash the overturning of Roe caused in states, particularly in red states like Kansas. But Donald Trump is president-elect because, according to the exit polls, he won the majority of 3 of the top 6 voting blocs. White women were the largest voting bloc at 37% of the electorate. They gave him 53% of their vote. White men were 34% of the electorate and gave Trump 60% of their votes. Latino men were 6% of the electorate and gave Trump 55% of their vote. Looking at the results of this election, one thing about Vice President Harris's loss is crystal clear to me. It didn't matter what she said, how she said it, and to whom she said it. A majority of the American people were not going to vote for her. There are a lot of reasons why, but we need to be honest about all of the reasons why. Trump's reliance on misogyny, racism, and anti-blackness. As I cycled through the emotions of Tuesday's results, I received an email from a black female friend with the subject line, "I still believe in America." After reflecting on her own improbable rise, she made an incredible observation. She wrote, "But for Trump's first term, there would be no black woman on the Supreme Court, and Kamala Harris would still be in the Senate. I am eternally optimistic and look forward to what a Trump second term will eventually bring forth for black women." As is her way, Vice President Harris didn't despair in defeat. She used her concession to make another vow to the American people.
While I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. The fight for freedom, for opportunity, for fairness, and the dignity of all people. A fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best. That is a fight I will never give up.
And I will gladly join her in that fight.